Hello, everyone. Anything to anybody?
Hello.
This
Okay.
video has the sunrise,
Beautiful
and
sunrise.
it's such a contrast as these drones are going in destroying all these people and these vehicles. You have this gorgeous sunrise, and it just drives home the absurdity of what's going on.
Totally. Yeah. God's beautiful creation, and then man down below just killing each other as usual.
Yeah, and people in our country, in the United States, either don't think about this at all, or
Spot on.
they think it's wonderful.
Um, yeah.
And you
Yeah.
know what? God has to come. It's like the great flood. God has to come. And unfortunately, you know what it realized? Human beings have to be wiped out every few thousand years.
Well,
Maybe then they'll get it.
well, you know what, amigo? Here's what I say. One of these days we should look it up. If you go to Genesis, uh, I think it's the first chapter, um, lines 6 through 9 or 10, verses 6 through 10. I can only paraphrase, but it always when we talk about stuff like this and I think about it, it always pops into my head constantly. The first time I read it, I was blown away. God basically says that was his only time in the Bible. Maybe there were others, but this was in Genesis early on, where he basically expressed in his words regret. He had a shred of regret or a moment of regret having created man. That's what he said. It's like I created you guys in my image to do whatever certain things, and I regret it. I regret it because you're so freaking terrible. You're selfish. You kill each other. You murder. You plunder. You're jealous all the time. Brothers kill brothers. You
Well,
know.
how many parents have children, they're babies, they're like, oh, this is a chip off the old block, and then the kid grows up to be everything that you never thought that they would be. I'm sure that that happens quite a bit.
More often probably than not. I mean, especially in this world. I mean, look, here's where we're going, in my opinion, because I've been following AI since 2016. Actually, I go back before that to the COGS program with MIT, following it. And the point is, families are being broken down by design. There will come a time at the rate we're going where traditional families as we know it will not exist. They will not exist. People will continue to be born, but they'll be born under, I think, very controlled means on an individual basis as the state dictates. And
Did you ever
as
see the movie Logan's Run?
yes, and as I wasn't
There you
thinking
go.
of that, but good point. And people will be born that way, cogs in the wheel. We need X amount of people with these characteristics for this or whatever. And, yeah, and that's it.
The
And
mark.
huh? Yeah.
Logan's Run includes the mark of the beast right there.
Yeah. Yeah, good point. I forgot about that. I watched it back in the day when I was a kid in the 70s. But you make a great point. That show was 50 years ahead of its time, and I wonder if they even knew it. I wonder if they even knew it. Whoever thought about it, was it Roddenberry or whoever? I don't know. Whoever. Yeah. Whoever thought about it was 50 years ahead of their time. On the mark. But anyway,
Well, we've referenced a lot of these movies that we watch, from Omega Man to Soylent Green to Elysium to
yeah.
Logan's Run.
Yeah.
People have to understand that these aren't, a lot of these things aren't just made for pure entertainment purposes.
Yeah, yeah. I read an article the other day, I forget where, that basically said, oh, it was about artificial intelligence. And it basically said that Hollywood has been softening us up with this stuff the last 10, 15, 20 years. And whenever the powers that be want to introduce stuff to the population at large, it sounds crazy, but it's true. If you do any kind of research at all, they always start slowly with a trickle, and they always start through traditional means, media, etc. right? Because they know if they give too much.
Well, you
too
said
fast,
Hollywood. That's not who's doing it.
no,
They're the,
Hollywood's not.
they're the conduit.
Yeah, 100%. They're not driving it, but what I'm trying to say, you're right. They're the conduit. They're the delivery mechanism. What I'm trying to say is the powers that be use different traditional means to seep stuff in slowly over time, phase it and ooze it in slowly, so that after 10 years, 20 years, whatever, 30 years, it becomes so commonplace. And they're doing that with artificial intelligence now, slowly. I mean, the Saudis, what, last year or two, just legalized what's her face from Hanson Electronics, Sophia. They made her a citizen like you and me. She's a citizen. She's an android, robot, artificial intelligence. She can sit here like we are and shoot the breeze and have conversations. She's a citizen of Saudi Arabia. So that's a prelude, guys, of what's coming. You think
it goes back to IBM Blue. You remember that?
100%. Yeah, that was so archaic.
40 years ago.
Yeah, in comparison to what we have now. But yeah, absolutely.
But that thing was
a start.
Nobody took it seriously back then because it was like taking on a chess champion, and it got to the point where a human being can't compete against it.
Can't compete against it, 100%. At first, it was like Atari. Boop, boop, boop. But then it went.
Yeah, Pong.
Yeah, Pong. Back in the day. Yeah, I wrote my first program in BASIC in high school that had a tank that went like this. It was kind of like that, but it moved slow. And every 10 seconds, it shot a little pellet and took a chunk out of the wall. So, yes.
Yeah, I remember my cousin was at BC as a student. And I remember I was 10 or 12 or 13, somewhere in that range. And he took us over to the computer lab back then.
Yeah.
And back then, now this has got to be early 80s, right? Early 80s, late 70s, early 80s. And they had a computer room, and it's back. They had like the those chain printers that printed out like the printer and the and
daisy chain and
the daisy chain, yeah. And I remember, so this game was played with that, and it was Star Trek, and you had to enter like coordinates on where to fire, like, just as a basic formula, like if then go to fire.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there waiting for the response, right? It's almost like being in a submarine where you can't really see anything.
Yep.
And I was so enthralled by that game back then. Well, today I don't even play games now because
I don't either.
It's so advanced now. It's too much work now.
Yeah, I mean, at our age, I just don't have the patience and gumption and wherewithal and to sit on Xbox for 14 hours straight with the thumbs clicking. It's like, did I have in television and all that back in the day playing the sports games and stuff? Absolutely.
You did?
And writing basic and crude programs at the time. And, yeah. But, I mean, we ain't seen nothing yet, folks. This stuff is going to continue.
Well, Apple just released those scuba diving masks.
Yeah.
And Google had those glasses a few years ago.
Yeah.
You remember the Google glasses?
Yeah, I do. The virtual reality stuff.
Yeah, you'd be walking. It's like a big sales bulletin.
Oculus or something.
It truly is disgusting. You'd be walking down the street with your Google glasses, and then all of a sudden the thing would pop up. Hey, there's a sale right there. You like these shirts? Go buy one. Hey, watch out for the.
Okay,
look,
so
Starbucks sale here. It's just basically becoming, filtering what you like and then trying to make you that much more of a consumer. That's all.
So, 100%. So Minority Report, that was the movie. That's where that technology came from. Tom Cruise was walking, remember, down
that's the future, though.
Down the street, or he was in the mall, walking down the mall, and, he was getting peppered by the big screens on each side of him. It was reading his retina or something, and marketing to him. Hey, look at this. Hey, you like this jacket. Hey, you like these pants or whatever, and that's we're there, guys. or if not on the cusp. And it's only going to get more digitized and more virtual. Our
Yeah,
world.
and when they go to 6G or 7G or 8G or 10G or whatever they're going to call
whatever
it
is,
you're not going to need the glasses. It's just going to be a virtual reality world. And we talked about this before, and we have a video on this that says people are going to choose to give up their carbon. I call it carbon-free living is the name of the video. People are going to choose to give up this body because think about how much work and effort it takes to take care of it. You know, you got to feed it, you got to clean it. You know, you have to exercise.
Choose the right foods, go to sleep.
You have to sleep. Yeah, I mean, shit. I can go to. I can become Mr. Data, and I can be 24 hours, 7 days a week. Man, I'm going to be super productive.
Yeah, don't say that to the Jack Welches of the world. They'll love that. I can have people like Dave and Dan work 27 hours a day, nonstop, repeatedly.
Well, it's one step up on AI.
I can enhance my top line revenue by 1,000-fold.
Well, thousands of years ago, when an emperor or a king would die and they were going to bury him in a pyramid or a tomb, what would they do?
Embalm him.
Well,
and bury him with a bunch of stuff.
And people.
Yeah, soldiers, whatever. Here's his army.
The terracotta warriors, you're familiar with them?
Yep.
In Xi'an, China.
Yep.
What that guy did is normally what they would do is they would execute all of his guys and put him in the tomb with them.
Isn't that something?
But this guy felt so badly about that, he ordered the construction of these mannequins.
Got it.
And what's fascinating is each mannequin is different. So it's possible that each mannequin was replicated for that person.
100%.
And back then, the Northeast guys, I mean, these guys were, some of them were like 2 meters tall. The warriors back then were bred to become the king's guards. They were enormous specimens.
Right.
And they also replicated the animals as well.
I saw
that. When you go and review this, they're all different. And he believed that when the guys died, their souls would go into these empty vessels. So there's a lot of historical precedents and beliefs ever since man was around that believes that this is possible, that our essence can be transferred to other things.
Well, just ask Elon Musk. He's working on it as we speak. He just unraveled the, I don't know what you call it, but it's like a net. It's a neural net, and it's obviously wiring and has electricity for synapse firing and stuff. And it's like a membrane, a real thin, artificial
I'm familiar with it, yeah.
membrane. And he puts it inside your skull, and it unravels, and it covers your brain, and it kind of, after a while, somehow integrates with the natural gray matter and mylar, whatever, in your brain, infuses with it. And now at that point, because folks, most of you probably realize we are electrical. We do fire impulses, right? Our brains have synapses, which allows me to do what I'm doing, like moving my arms and hands. I have a thought and a synapse fires, and it then can stimulate muscles so we can move and have thought and whatever. So anyway, this is a crude way, and they'll perfect it, of tapping into your thoughts, right? Grabbing your electrical impulses somehow through this membrane, sending it over a network to a computer, and then the computer will construct, essentially based on that synapse somehow, it'll construct what that thought was. Right?
Yeah, well, it's man's attempt at immortality. And
100%.
Ever since Ponce de Leon was looking for the fountain of youth.
Yeah, so that's where we're headed, guys. You know,
Is
once
that a
that,
good thing? Is it a good thing? Do you want Elon Musk being around forever, or Donald Trump,
yeah, well,
or
yeah,
Jack Fauci?
yeah,
You know,
that's a
you
great
want these
point.
people around forever?
Yeah, so when we
Chairman
drop,
Mao?
yeah, that's right, amigos. So when we drop dead and shed our skin, all those thoughts can be downloaded, or your brain, which is essentially you, I guess, in your experience, can be uploaded somewhere and live in perpetuity at that point. The only difference is you just shed your physical properties, your physical meat suit. You just shed it.
Yeah, and there's been videos and TV shows and movies about that where I'm sure that technology is there right now that will allow you to answer a million questions, and they could ask you
Excuse me.
various things and video you and look at your mannerisms, and they can create a program that can take all of this. They can create algorithms and programs
Absolutely.
that can basically recreate how you would respond to certain questions.
Totally
And
emulate.
so your children and your grandchildren can go to the computer and say, "Hey, Grandpa, how you doing today?" "I'm doing good, Jakey. How you doing?" You know, it's like it's like and you'd be fooled by it. It
Well,
would be accurate enough because you know.
Well, here's to add to what you're saying. Joe Rogan just put out a thing 2, 3, 4 days ago of concern about AI because somebody spoofed an entire episode of him uh, with AI. It looked exactly like him. It sounded exactly like him. The exact same mannerisms, everything you just cited. And people thought this was a Joe Rogan episode. Joe's like, no, that's not me. I didn't do that. I had nothing to do with that, nor did I give any such permission, etc. That was totally devised by AI or whatever technology. That was not me.
Yeah, all and think about the ramifications on that. You don't know what's going to be real or not real. It can coerce a population into doing things they wouldn't otherwise do. It can have a you know you can put something on a screen. You can frame somebody. You can set somebody up. I mean,
100%. That's
you
where I
know,
was going with
you
that.
could have three Winston Churchills on the screen. You know,
100%.
this one's in Moscow. This one's in London. This one's in New York. Who's the real one?
100%. That's where I was going with it. I mean, they could make a leader, a Biden, whoever, imitate them and have him say or do something that otherwise they wouldn't even do. Some rogue whatever.
Yeah, and they'll be pounding on the table like Joe Rogan. I never did that. I never said that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they're divided now. They're going to have people like he's a liar. He's a liar.
Yeah. Well, how do you, as an individual,
I was never on Epstein Island.
how could
Wasn't
you
that you with the little girl?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's not a joke. We're making fun of it, but there you are, Dave, wearing the European Speedo briefs, hanging out on the beach there with the banana smugglers, and you said you weren't there, but there you are, suntanning your pecs, right? But how do you prove it now? How do you prove it? You're like swearing up and down that wasn't me, that was created, that was a hologram or whatever. How the hell do you protect yourself and prove it as an individual now? You can't. You're screwed. You're screwed. Somebody's got it in for you. They show you whatever, robbing a building or something in California, but you live in effing Kansas.
And
right?
look at how easy it is to be canceled. Look at all these people who are coming out speaking against the jab who were canceled. They lost their entire livelihoods. Dr. Pierre Corey fired. Even something as simple as us, we got the YouTube channel deleted.
Yeah.
Somebody as small as us.
And we're a couple of regular guys. Handsome, albeit, but still a couple of regular guys.
Yep. Well, nobody's going to come to the rescue for us. Look at Gonzalo Lira. Where's Gonzalo Lira?
Absolutely.
Where is he? Is he even alive?
Dan who? Dave who? Couple of clowns with bad humor? Who's going to miss him? No, I get it, bro. It's scary. It's very scary.
Yeah, well, think they could actually take you and put a replication of you on a screen somewhere, and your family sees you so little they'd still think you're in Florida
Absolutely.
when you're really in
Yep.
Guantanamo or dead.
Yeah. Brought it up.
Sometimes somebody not in the middle of the fray can see things that you can't. That's why it's always good to have an objective person giving you feedback. And you have to train yourself not to become defensive and say, no, you don't know what you're talking about.
No. I totally agree 1000%. You never know. You never know.
No, and I mean, the bottom line is how many people out there have been Dan, we've been doing these videos for 10 years. Granted, we don't have a following because we aren't really trying to make this into we're not trying to make this into anything. But at some point, I just had somebody make a comment today on a video, Tommy Boy. He said you can buy the house, live out in the mountains, but eventually they're going to get you. And I said to him, yeah, but you won't be number 1 through 10. Everything's a delaying action now. So maybe the technology has gotten so advanced now, Dan, like we're talking about, that they can even now come after people like us. Because it's just pressing a button. It's putting us on a list, and now the algorithm's coming after us.
We know for a fact that believers are being targeted more and more. If you just nonchalantly open your eyes and tangentially observe, you'll see it. This isn't our opinion. This isn't hearsay. There's stuff going on in the world that previously wasn't seen or normal. And it seems to be happening more, and I'll just leave it at that. So yeah, entirely possible. Entirely possible.
Well, evil never stops. They never quit. Never quit. And that's why you see what's going on in Ukraine right now. That is pure evil at work. Pure evil. That's as pure of evil. And here's what the book of Revelation talks about. Look at all the assholes who are putting Ukrainian flags on their page and saying, Putin's evil, no. The evil is on the other side. And the problem is when you're faced with evil, you have two choices. You can curl up into a ball and give up, or you can fight back. What other choices do you have? Am I missing anything? Do we think that Putin's just going to allow us to do? I mean, this has been going on for a decade, 9 years, and he's been extreme or longer.
Well,
since the end of the Cold War, they've been expanding NATO.
You could argue hundreds of years too. I mean, those.
Well, I'm talking this specific incident.
No, I get it. No, I get it. But if you look at the Russian background and stock, you look at Chechnya, you look at Belarus, you look at the Ukraine, Eastern Europe, Moldova in general, they're all pretty much closely related. And it's kind of like similar to the Middle East. They've been going back and forth, even though they're brothers at the end of the day, since the beginning of time. Man tends to do that. The Israelis and the Palestinians, to me, are a great example. They're brothers at the end of the day, but yet they fight with each other. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right? Was it? We can all trace our lineage, guys, back to like 12 or 14 tribes. Abraham had Isaac. Isaac, in turn, had a concubine. Her name started with an H. I forget her name. And he had a son through her.
That sent her away.
Right. That son was Ishmael. Okay. Ishmael was the forerunner and the predecessor to the Arabs and the Arab nations. Right. God said he would bless.
Was her name Sarah?
No.
It was Sarah, wasn't it?
It started with an H. So Isaac had, a regular wife. I forget her name, Sarah,
Yeah, and
whatever.
she grew jealous and said, "Send her away."
Exactly. And so that's where the split off occurred between the Israelites and the essentially the Arabs. That's where the split started. But at the end of the day, they came from the same father. So that I guess what I'm trying to say, guys, I'm not being political at all.
Hagar.
Yeah, Hagar, exactly. So at the end of the day, I knew it started with an H. What I'm trying to say, guys, is at the end of the day, regardless of sex, creed, religion, all that, we're human beings and we're brothers. That's what I'm trying to say. That's what I'm trying to say. And we spend so much time otherwise.
Most people don't believe that.
So it traces all the way back to their guys.
No, most people don't believe that because you can see we're so easily divided on these. Look at how the world is set up. The Chinese are here, the Russians are here,
Yeah,
we're
totally.
here, the English here, there. Look at the black on white hate
100%.
going on right now.
Even in our own country,
artificially pumped.
Even in our own country, we're so divided. I mean, when are we going to get a leader? Never, by the way. But
you a Yankee?
Yeah, exactly. So
we have to erase that history,
Well, yeah. I mean, Dave and I, we're Yankees. We're from the Northeast. But and where am I going with this? Sometimes we can be coarse and abrasive, but we're straightforward people. We were raised that way. And at the end of the day, we care about people. We do. And we look for ways to bring commonality and find common ground to work with each other. That's our thought process. That's how we were kind of raised. I believe that, President Kennedy had the same mindset. He was trying to bring people together, find common ground, and work stuff out. Well, there's a lot of people in the world that don't want that for various reasons and agendas.
You should ask what you can do for your country, not what your country can do for you.
Yep. No, he was a true blue blood, whatever Yankee, no doubt about it. But,
today, 80% of the people are like, how can I suck off the government?
Yeah.
And that's where we are today. Everything from Wall Street, our entire financial system is propped up by the government.
All right. Well, yeah.
No.
Yeah. I don't want to go there. I mean, I don't want people looking at us and calling us cuckoo pops, but I hear what you're saying. I mean, it prints money.
You definitely wear a skirt. You're pathetic. Really? You
So
can't even state the obvious?
What I was going to say was,
I can't say my opinion. I might be hated for it.
I don't really care about that.
That's not what you just said.
So what I was going to say was that we know for a fact that the government prints tons and tons of money. It has for 10 years with quantitative easing and tightening and the controlling of interest rates, central bank system through the Federal Reserve.
The Federal Reserve is a criminal organization.
Okay, on and on and on. So, and it's centralization. I mean, so much for free market, operations. The currency has devalued over 97% in the last century. Most Americans just don't understand that or know about it or even think about it. All they see, though, is that a gallon of milk gets more expensive over time. The same house that my parents, as much as I love them, they drive me cuckoo, bought in 1977, that house has gone up 20 or 30 fold. They bought it for 60 G's. They now can sell it for $1 million. How was a house built in 1964?
We basically enslave and destroy the rest of the world so that we can maintain our standard of living in this country.
So how does a 60-year-old house go up, 50-fold, built with materials?
Why?
For pennies on the dollar compared to now.
Why? Because guess what? There's only one house on that lot. You can't replicate it. So if you want to live in that house, you got to pay the price. You want to live on the beach, you got to pay the price.
So I guess supply and demand, but could inflation, the hidden tax,
yes,
as well,
but what I'm saying
as well as the devaluation of money have anything to do with it as well?
Yes, of course. But you asked, why is that house worth more now?
Yeah.
Well, because it's where people want to be.
Yep, that's a factor as well. I would think.
Yeah.
Is it?
I
Is
mean,
it?
there are neighborhoods in Mexico City where it could be free and you wouldn't want to live there. And the
Yeah.
same thing in Boston and New York. And
Yeah. Well, I guess if you factor in inflation and the devaluation of currency, that just compounds it all, doesn't it?
I've been saying the same thing for 10 years. My rhetoric hasn't changed. Is people are going to have to fight a war. You're going to have to be willing to lose everything, to give everything up. But the reason we continue to go down this path over and over again is because people aren't prepared to do that.
Yeah, I'm not even going to go there. Yeah, I'm not even going to address that. Yeah.
That's why you stay on the treadmill.
Yeah. Well, look, you sometimes you criticize real easy. So I know I'm on the treadmill. At least I realize it. I know I'm a rat running on the wheel. I get it. Okay. But I've got certain obligations that I signed up for.
I understand that. We all have our excuses. We all have.
They're not excuses. They're not excuses.
What do you call it?
They're facts. They're facts. I have children and stuff, right? So I have certain obligations. Now I could drop those obligations, kit and caboodle, and say, is that what a man does, though? I don't know.
Well, they're
posing the question
again.
Or does a man do what he's supposed to do, whether he wants to do it or not? Because this, he has duties that need to be adhered to and administered. I mean, that's part of being a man. Most of the time, you're doing stuff that you don't want to do. That's part of it. That, as far as I know, unless you were born into a trust fund, you're a Hilton or something, and then at that point, it doesn't matter. You could do whatever you want all day long. But most people don't have that luxury, right? I mean, think about the freedoms that we've enjoyed. The guys that have bled on battlefields. Did they want to do that? Probably not. But they did it.
This would be a diatribe off on a 1 or 2 hour tangent, and I'm not prepared to go this route.
That's
but the
all
bottom line is, yes, on the scale of, yes, it is an excuse because there is always an alternative way. The problem is most people resign themselves to the fact that there's nothing I can do.
Okay,
so that's why we have the world we have. Because
okay,
we keep expecting to elect somebody to solve these problems.
So I agree with you that there's always an alternative, 100%, definitely. But I'm just saying that most people have certain things, families.
We're going to be dead someday. And hey, if you want to choose to stay on this path and tell yourself, I have to do it because there's no other way, that's a choice. And what's the overall scheme? What is the overall thing that mankind has? We have free choice and free will. So when people say, well, I really don't have any other way, that's fine. That's a choice. No, it's not a choice. Do you expect me to go throw this out the window? It's a choice.
Yeah, everything's a choice.
Yes. The other choice might be very difficult.
Okay. Everybody's situation is different. You know that. And not everybody, depending on the nature of their situation, can make
the problem is most people decisions based on,
as you're inferring,
based on comfort.
Okay.
It's more comfortable to do this. It's easier to do this.
Okay. There's truth to that
I'm overwhelmed.
as well.
I already have my hands full. I can't worry that we're being, systematically targeted and destroyed. It's not my problem.
I mean, what do you say to the average stiff that's working 2 or 3 jobs to make ends meet?
Yeah, don't have children. That's what I say.
Don't have children.
It's my right to have children.
Okay.
Who are you to tell me not to have children?
Okay, dude, that's disingenuous. That's easy for you to say. I'll leave it at that. Okay. If nobody had children, there'd be no people in the world. There'd be no families, etc. So I don't know where you're going with that. Let me put it this way. I had a guy one time about 20 years ago. Okay, a Chinese guy, as a matter of fact, from China, who was a technologist, and he and I went at it one time in a conference room alone. And the comment he made to me was, and I wanted to get up and punch him right through the teeth, but I didn't. Okay, wearing my suit. And the comment he made was, and you just reminded me of this, was, well, you know, you had a family, Dan. You decided to have a family. I decided not to have a family and put the company first. That's what he said to me. I wanted to knock his ass out. So I was like,
So what did he just say that was incorrect?
I didn't say what he said was incorrect, but how dare he say a comment like that to me? Who the hell is he to say to me that, you know, well, you decided to have a family, so maybe that's why you're not going to get on this project or advance any further? What kind of an idiotic statement is that? Okay, Ray. I said to him, okay, Ray, touche. Bravo. Good point. Guess what? There'd be no workers if nobody had any children, you moron. If your parents decided not to have you, moron, you wouldn't be sitting here with a good job, I said to him. And he was like, and I said, you know, whatever, okay? I know China's doing the one children thing or whatever. And I left the room, you know? I mean, who is he to make a comment to me about my personal life and the choices I decided to make and then intertwine that with my professional career?
Well, the truth hurts, doesn't it?
That's, hey, man, that's your opinion. I don't agree with it. Okay. What do you mean the truth hurts? So I should be chastised?
Like I said, what did he just say to you that was incorrect?
Okay.
What was not truthful? What was not truthful about what he said?
I decided to have a family. Why should I be berated and chastised for that? That's fucking mental. That's your opinion. I don't agree with it. If you decide not to have a family, that's your choice.
Companies don't hire women every day because they don't want to train a woman and then have her go off on maternity leave.
Hey, factor it in. Factor it in. They want more profits, though. They want more profits, so they want to suck the woman out of the house. Who's going to raise the family now? Where are their future workers going to come from in their educated workforce if we don't have kids? You ever think of that? Just like the company you were running, you needed people at one point. Where do those people come from?
It's a different question.
It's not a different question.
It is, because most people do not intelligently plan out having children.
Okay.
They just pop out. Oops.
Okay. Okay. So there is truth.
I guess we're ready now.
Okay. So on that note, there's truth to that. And I would agree with you that, especially these days, the last 20, 30 years or so, that's even more prevalent than ever before. That I agree with. But our generation and before, I think on average.
And I have no problem with people having children and having families, but you have to realize with every choice, there's a consequence.
100%.
You will.
100%. And I didn't disagree with him on that note, but it's like,
you did. That's what hurts.
No, it didn't
because
hurt.
The bottom line is,
no, it didn't hurt.
The bottom line is,
why should I be berated and chastised because I chose a certain
path? And I'm not saying I agree with the guy, but if this guy made the choice,
that's his choice. I don't agree with it. I didn't chastise him and call him out for it. So then he shouldn't chastise me and call me out for it.
You did. You said you wanted to punch him in the nose.
I did after he made that comment. Who the hell was he to make those comments to me? To basically say, well, Dan, well, maybe if you didn't have a family. Hey, Ray, why don't you kiss my ass? How's that sound? You decided not to have a family.
The truth hurts. Because guess what? Ray.
No, the truth doesn't hurt. No, it was inappropriate. You're missing the point. He was out of line. It was inappropriate. You don't see that. That's where you and I disagree.
There you go. So we're back to being politically correct.
It's not politically correct. It's not politically correct. If you're going to challenge me and say something that I don't agree with, then I'm going to voice my concern.
That's fine. Well, you're wrong. I mean, you're wrong.
I think you're wrong. I don't agree.
Yeah.
So we don't agree.
Yeah.
You're defending him.
No, I'm defending the fact that what he said was factually true. I'm not agreeing with his decision.
Okay.
But if this man chose to make his life the company, there are a lot of people who do that, then yes, he will get advantages that you don't, because you have to go to your soccer game. You have to do this for the kids.
Agreed.
You have to mow the lawn. You have
Totally
to do
agree.
whatever you have
Agreed.
to do.
Agreed.
So if
Agreed.
you decided to go down that path and he didn't, and he basically made a comment to that effect, and you're offended by it, grow some skin.
I wasn't offended by it, not at
You
all.
just said you were.
Okay, it's none of his effing business what I chose to do. Period. Calling me out on that. Okay.
He was making a comment, Dan, at the boardroom that he was getting a project and you weren't because he was more dedicated to the outcome. Truth. What he said was correct.
Not necessarily true. I don't agree with that. So he's more dedicated because he decided not to have a wife and family. That makes
Call
him
it
more
what
dedicated.
you will, Dan.
That
Listen,
makes him more dedicated.
you're seeing
By
it
whose
now.
definition?
You're a 50-year-old guy. You're
By whose
easily
definition?
replaced. You're easily replaced.
I
Okay?
understand that. I get it.
And now humans are going to be easily replaced by robots.
Exactly.
Get used to it, people.
Exactly.
We
And that's
are
where
all replaceable.
I get it. And that's where I was going with that. Okay. And that's the part that rubs me the wrong way. Okay. I mean, where would any of us be if there were no families and if
Well,
we had
as long as you let companies run government, as long as you let the banks run the Federal Reserve and run our politicians and set policy, and we set up a system so that government is in such control. When the Constitution in the country is formed, people were free. Government wasn't in, oh, you can't sell that milk. Oh, you can't go down the road this direction. Oh, you got to do this, you got to do that. There was personal responsibility back then. Today, everybody expects government to solve every freaking problem. And that's why we are where we are.
yeah,
Because
I mean,
if you start setting this parameters, then individual freedom and individual choice means nothing.
so it goes back to essentially, if not maybe before, I don't know, but essentially plus or minus the Great Society, right? With Lyndon Johnson. I'm all for certain programs for people that need a certain amount of help.
It goes back to FDR with his whatever that damn plan was called, where he set up Social Security.
Yeah.
They set up the IRS in 1913, the Federal Reserve.
Yeah.
It goes back more than 100 years ago.
Well, yeah,
That's just the latest iteration is in the 1960s.
Yeah.
And that was basically to, and they always disguise it. You know how they always say like the Inflation Reduction Act, when in reality, they mean the Inflation Exponential Creation Act.
Exactly.
Or the Patriot Act.
Or the Patriot Act.
The Patriot Act. When in reality, they're taking all your rights and your freedoms away.
You have no habeas corpus any further.
Yeah, I mean, there's gonna be a massive war, death and destruction, or
here we go.
There's not. Or there's not.
Dr. Doom.
Well, listen, Putin, if we go back to Ukraine, this is a critical moment. Putin was basically it's like me coming up and me tapping you on your shoulder.
I agree.
I slap you in your face.
Yeah, sooner or later.
Are you going to, I know Jesus says,
turn the other cheek.
Turn the other cheek. But as imperfect people, how often are we going to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to try to walk away for sure if I can. But if you keep slapping me in the head, even while I'm walking away, sooner or later, I'm a human being. You're right.
And how often did Putin implore the West, saying to the media, you're not doing your job. You're not warning your people. You're not relaying our message. This is not going to end well. That's all he can do.
100 times. Yeah. No, we are. I agree with you, amigo, that we're poking the bear. We keep poking the bear, and that bear is getting more and more irritated, and we're poking the bear. God knows what'll happen. I personally try to use common sense. If you poke the bear enough, or you grab the dragon's tail enough, or you play whatever pause with the lion enough, sooner or later, he's going to swipe
and for
back.
the citizens in this country who believe that we should be supporting Ukraine and we should kill, like Lindsey Graham, I love those dead Russians. We keep killing those damn Russians.
Is that what he said? Really?
Yeah, he's like, you're not familiar with this? He
No.
met with Zelensky and said, this is the best investment we ever spent. We love killing Russians.
Oh my God. Okay.
Last week or last month.
All right.
You need to really pay attention, man.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, the problem, Dan, is people are living their lives and they're like, this doesn't concern me. This doesn't concern me. I don't want to be bothered with this.
Okay,
And
so
that's what allows these criminals to get away with this.
yeah, I mean, I can only speak for myself. If I had heard that comment, I mean, I follow a lot of things. I can't catch everything, but yeah,
Well,
no.
Look online.
If I believe you, okay. My point is, if I had heard that comment, I would have been like, "Wow, really?" Okay. So what would have been his return or retort if the Russians are saying the same thing? Well, we really love those dead Americans. Great, great.
Well, the United States doesn't. Everything we say is always right.
Yeah. 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 Like I said, it goes back to what I said earlier.
So if we're in Mexico engaging, would anybody be surprised if we have special forces engaged with Mexican cartels or whoever in Mexico right now?
I don't
Would
know.
anybody be surprised? And we talked about before where we couldn't really come up with, do we have any military bases in South America? But you probably didn't look at it.
I did look at it. There's a ton of them, way more bases than I ever thought.
Dozens.
It looked like there were 15 or 20 at least running down from Central to South through South America, at least 20 or so. So I did look at it, wise guy. So yeah, there was at least 20 or so. But yeah, no, I was surprised. I learned something. I would have guessed 1 or 2 bases at best. I definitely learned something. Way more bases. There's probably 24 bases through Central and South America. Did you think there were that many? Honestly,
no. What I said is, I believe I said there's probably like CIA and Black Ops.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, they're not traditional base. Yeah, if I had to guess, they're not traditional bases that we think of Air Force.
It's like like what they have in Eastern Europe, like Ukraine and Romania.
Yeah,
right?
Black Op rooms. Yeah, definitely, 100%. Yeah. So, and the other thing is, I thought we had 800 bases around the world. I was wrong again. I think there's
probably
over
like thousands.
No, there's over 900 now. The last number I got, over 900.
That they admit to?
Well, that's a good point. You're right, that we know of. So maybe it's 2,000. Who knows?
Here, I'm going to go to. I'm going to go to.
It just seems like a lot to me. If you think of the globe in your mind and you think of all putting these pins all over the globe, think of 900 pins, guys, across the globe. That sounds pretty saturated to me. But again, I don't purport.
Can you see the screen?
Anything. Yeah, I can.
Okay, here we go.
Oh boy, here we go. I know. I saw it. I saw the video, but I couldn't hear it. It didn't kick in on my end.
Lindsey Graham says.
Yep.
Zelensky goes, now we're free. And Lindsey Graham goes, it's the best money we've ever spent. Killing Russians. It's a beautiful thing. Something like that.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Yeah. Yeah, warmongering, I guess. Yeah.
He's a senator. He's a senator in the United States government.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, no, I get it.
He should be recalled. South Carolina should be recalling this asshole. If people don't stand up and demand that those people got to go, then they're culpable. Instead, everybody's cheering. And even a couple of years ago, we've got a video where they had this general on saying 5-6 years ago when this whole thing with Ukraine started, and they had these former retired generals on saying we got to start sending Russians back in body bags on RT. Hey man, this is when you send out this type of energy, it comes right back. Comes right back.
No argument. No argument. It saddens me. It scares me too, because I agree that when you send out, I do believe in whatever lack of term karma. when you send out certain energy and vibes and stuff, it does have a certain effect and boomerang, whatever you want to call it. And that's to me a concern. Again, you know, I'm not sticking up for the Russians and defending them. They have a soiled and you know, questionable history at best, particularly with communism and stuff. And Joe Stalin was not exactly a
Who cares?
a choir boy.
Who cares?
No. It is a factor. You say who cares? It is a factor. But my point is,
Yeah, that's their country. If the Russians decide that they want that government, let them rise up.
Okay, fine. So
okay, that's what led to Vietnam.
Yeah, and that's
because the United States believed it's our responsibility to make sure the rest of the world is free. No, it's not our responsibility. Does anybody listen to George Washington's warning?
No, of course not, because most people don't pay attention to history. I don't even want to go there. Most people think history is a joke, but what they don't understand is that the world is shaped by prior decisions, hence history, that has brought us to this point. That's why we study history. And it also has entwined within it certain decisions and mistakes that were made that we could potentially benefit from or learn from if we take the time to sometimes look back and heed such advice. But we don't do that. I mean, we hear all the time, oh, that was 100 years ago. That was 50 years ago. The Bible, don't pay attention to that. That was 2,000 years ago. Has absolutely no meaning or bearing. No, it does actually. Has a lot of meaning and bearing.
Yep, and that's what, if we go back to the Civil War, that was really the end of the United States right then and there. And that's why our country has only snowballed into this bigger and bigger, more powerful, centralized government, because that was what that war started over. It started over between federal government saying this, states and individuals were saying this.
And sovereignty.
Well, there was a fight. There was a fight. And unfortunately, the wrong side won. And it had nothing to do with slavery. That only is one thing that they've done to change the narrative on it. Yes, there was slavery back then, but slavery would have gone away either way. We weren't even the last country in the world that had slavery.
No,
but the point I'm making is, so after that, you just kick the crap out of anybody who dared to challenge the federal government. And that is even more so today. You can't challenge the federal government. You can't do anything. You are going to get destroyed.
Yeah, I don't even want to think about that. I mean, you get squashed like a grape, dude. Yeah, forget it. Like a grape.
Yeah. So, but